Sir, I am studying a new course, 050.
Very well. Hey, I don't get those lights. Is she launching aircraft? What the hell? That's a port running light.
What's her bearing drift?
I hold her drifting left. Left 5 degrees rudder.
Left 5 degrees rudder, aye, sir.
The time, still 0313 plus. A collision can still be avoided. Evans, with 5 degrees left rudder on, would narrowly miss Melbourne. In a few moments, both ships will commit to turns that will make the tragedy inevitable.
Boy, something's wrong here. Something's very wrong.
She should be coming to 160.
The commanding officer of Evans remains asleep in his sea cabin. He has received no indication that his ship is in harm's way. Melbourne's captain, having heard no response to his earlier warning, repeats it.
Bravo 4, this is Mike 3. You're on a collision course. Over.
Right full rudder.
Right full rudder, aye.
Bravo 4, roger. My rudder is right full.
She says we're on a collision course, but I don't get it.
She must mean she hasn't executed her turn to 160. Right rudder on. We'll pass under her stern, but it'll be close.
The time, still 0314 plus. There is one last message from Melbourne. It confirms action already taken by Melbourne's commanding officer. Action that makes collision inevitable.
Bravo 4, this is Mike 3. I'm going hard left. Over.
At the time of Evans' final hard right rudder and Melbourne's hard left, there were 9 possible combinations of turns available to the two ships. Even up to those final moments, if any of 7 other combinations had been chosen, the collision would have been avoided. Melbourne signals she is altering course to the left. Collision is seconds away. There are still desperate attempts being made on both ships to avoid it. Melbourne's captain orders all engines stop. Almost simultaneously, the Melbourne officer of the watch orders all engines back. The engines will not respond to the last order until after the collision.
God, she's going to hit us. All engines back full. Damn it.
At about 0315 on June 3rd, 1969, Melbourne strikes the port side of Evans at frame 92, the approximate location of CIC. The angle between the ships at impact is about 90 degrees. Evans is split into 2 sections. The force of the collision stops Melbourne dead in the water. The entire watch in Evans CIC is lost. No one in the forward fire room or the IC plotting room survives. Of the 10 officers in the forward section, 4 of them, the CO, XO, and the 2 deck watch officers, survive. 33 of the 101 enlisted men escape. Evans' forward section rolls 90 degrees to starboard and does not recover as it passes down the port side of Melbourne. In 9 minutes, it sinks in 1,100 fathoms of water, taking 73 men to the bottom. 1 additional body is picked up by a lifeboat. In the Evans junior officer compartment, in the forward section, a ladder not bolted properly to the deck rises up as the section rolls. The ladder blocks all escape, and all the officers in the compartment are lost. Through various acts of heroism, others in the forward section of Evans are saved. The BMOW seaman James Barnes, after being thrown from Evans Bridge to the water by the collision, swims back to the forward section. After climbing aboard, Seaman Barnes forces open a door leading from the main deck. It is now horizontal because the section is lying on its starboard side. He then shouts to those inside that this is the way out. 16 men escape through the door that Seaman Barnes has opened. In a tragic irony, his brother remains trapped in a compartment below and is lost. The aft section of Evans, which rights itself after an initial roll to starboard, floats down the right side of Melbourne and comes to rest off the carrier's starboard quarter. Here, too, many officers and men respond with valor. Lieutenant M.L. Bradshaw, Evans' operations officer, is the senior officer in the aft section. He assembles the crew on the fantail and organizes the distribution of life jackets. Only after ordering the evacuation of the rest of the Evans crew does Lieutenant Bradshaw himself leave what remains of his ship. Signalman First Class Robert Simpson and Quartermaster Second Class Peter Jones go through the berthing compartments in the after section, ordering the men to the fantail. After searching to ensure that no one remains, they pass through the compartments, setting condition zebra. Other petty officers help calm the crew and supervise the evacuation to Melbourne via ladder, scrambling nets, and Jacob's ladder when the aft section of Evans has been secured to the carrier. The search for Evans survivors continues through daylight of June 3rd. Helicopters from Melbourne and U.S.S. Kearsarge, as well as boats from the Australian carrier, cooperate in the search. The last survivor is picked up by helo at 0340. Later in the day, Evans survivors are transferred to Kearsarge. A number are injured. All personnel, with the exception of one fireman who was on watch in Evans' forward engine room at the time of the collision, require hospitalization for first and second degree burns caused by high-temperature steam escaping from the broken main steam line. There are other injuries in addition to the physical wounds. Souls are scarred by the memory of being pitched to the deck by the collision, of crawling and sometimes swimming to safety through the dark and canted passageways of a broken and dying ship. It's impossible to grasp the horror of those moments. We can imagine, though, the force of the collision that caused them. We can see the physical evidence. The effects are devastating when two ships are brought together at a relative speed of 30 knots. Seaman Jose Rosa was on top of Evans' signal shelter when she was struck. The force of the collision whipped him through the air up and onto the carrier's flight deck. Seaman Rosa suffered multiple injuries, but survived. The force of the Melbourne-Evans collision also ripped away sections of the destroyer and tossed them onto the flight deck of Melbourne. The survivors from Evans are now safe. Cleanup of Melbourne is almost complete. The job of winding up other details of the Melbourne-Evans disaster will not be so easy. For when ships collide at sea and lives are lost, there must be an accounting. Responsibility must be fixed. These are hard facts, but the rules men who go to sea live by can be no less hard than the sea itself. On June 10th, 1969, a joint board of investigation presided over by Rear Admiral Jerome H. King, Jr., senior member, convened at the U.S. Naval Station, Subic Bay, the Philippines. The board found that Evans was primarily responsible for the collision, as Evans had the duty to remain clear of Melbourne in taking station.